You're listening to Stimulus Tech Talk, a conversation-based podcast created by Stimulus Technologies that covers a range of topics related to business and technology.
I'm Nathan Whittacre, CEO of Stimulus Technologies, here with Stimulus Tech Talk this week. As we've been doing on our series over the last month or so, is talking about our 30-year celebration of the company. And I have one of our co-founders here, Brett Whittacre, who's also my brother. Excited to talk. Last week we discussed with some of our employees, the team members, management team that's been here for about 15 years, and now talk about the first 10 years of the business.
Wow, 15 years.
Yeah, Brian.
For employees, that's awesome.
Yeah, so Brian started in 2009.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing in a company.
Managing staff, team members, longevity.
Finding a home that they're happy with and everybody's happy, and growth.
Yeah. So
congratulations. That's really quite an accomplishment.
Thanks. So taking back to 1995, you can remember 30 years ago.
Barely.
I often tell the story, and maybe you can correct me if I mess anything up, that I was working in Image Computers, and Al Ackerman, the owner of Image Computers, who was a professor and a magician, came in and was Best Buy had opened up down the street, and their business was going away because you could go down to Best Buy and buy a Dell or Compaq or whatever it may be, and they couldn't build computers anymore for money. And so I came home to you and Dad and said, I think we can do this, and let's start a business.
I think it goes back farther than that, though.
Okay.
That's the start of doing it for real. But I think it goes back farther than that. I think that knowing how we were raised and how everything was going, we were all entrepreneurs from the beginning. So when opportunity presents itself, we always just say, throw caution to the wind. Let's just
a little
do
too
it.
much.
And anyhow, I think that that's fundamentally what it was. This is you saw an opportunity there. We were all eager to jump on board, and that's where the original team came from, and it started with. It's just the fact that there was just that spirit there to go forward. And I can't believe it's been 30 years, but yeah, I definitely remember that.
Yeah. So if we want to go back further, we can go back to the Atari 800 XL.
I think it goes back to Atari. So if anybody from Atari, the original Atari guys, ever see this, thank you. You're responsible for us.
Now we just wanted to play games.
We did. We like to play games, but I was also in, and it's a little bit of a difference between Nathan and I. Nathan has always been a fabulous programmer. I'm a horrible programmer, but I've always been into electronics.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and honestly, if you ever have the opportunity, ask Nathan what he got his master's degree in, and specifically what he wrote. It was amazing. But we won't go into that right now. But I think that it started with pulling the Atari apart. We would literally pull it apart and solder wires onto that to try to do things with it.
So that's a difference. My soldering jobs versus your soldering jobs are very different.
Well,
I get a glop of solder, and you get it very nice and clean.
Well, that used to be back then. Today is the bigger the blob, the better the job. Yeah, no, I think it went way back. That we just came from a family that was always full of entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
All of our siblings are very aggressive in trying to develop and go forward as entrepreneurs, and we just always had that spirit. And 30 years of a company, I think it's a tremendous accomplishment, Nathan. I'm in awe. I'm glad I was there for the founding, but you were the one that took it so far beyond what I think that I ever saw.
Yeah, it's we started in your garage.
There is a picture floating around somewhere of Nathan and I standing in the garage working, I think, on the very first computer that we ever built for somebody.
Yeah. So a funny story that just happened. So I'm wearing a cat shirt.
Yes. Did you find that cat
shirt?
And
so Brian went on eBay and found that you could buy this cat shirt for like $160 on eBay.
Wow.
Like used with a collar worn and everything. And so he decided to get himself a cat shirt. And so on our team meeting this month, he's wearing the same cat shirt with the background of that picture. It was iconic.
That's funny. I still remember that we had the servers and all the equipment that we bought from Image Computers, and it was there in the garage and everything. And I think the very first computers that we built, I think, were personal computers to quickly get them. At the time, I was in college and hoping to build computers for people in college, and you were just recently out of high school, I think, at the time.
I was actually senior in high school still.
That's right. You were a senior in high school.
So I couldn't even sign off on the original corporate documents because I was not a legal adult.
Correct.
So if you also look very carefully at that picture, I'm sure Sherry's going to post it on there. There's a hammer on the wall too, and I got a question of why there's a hammer in a computer shop.
Actually, it's a practical tool. Today, it's even more practical. Hard drives were really fragile and easy to destroy back then. Today, they're a little bit more robust. But on occasion, you have to do data destruction. So hammers and presses and drills, that's actually really hard to drill through a hard drive.
That is why we have an 8-ton press to destroy equipment out there.
Yeah, if you want to go to like DoD destruction levels, it's pretty significant to do that.
So we were, you at the beginning were still working doing fiberglass insulation, and I was working at odd jobs, Blockbuster, Access Nevada, a few other places just to make ends meet.
So technically speaking, and it was always a funny thing, I worked at a company called MIS. And so people thought that meant Management of Information Systems, and it wasn't. It was Mechanical Insulation Specialist, which also happened to be owned by one of our siblings. And, it paid the bills for college. It paid the bills. It was actually a good job, but it wasn't a career. And so I was doing that. It was kind of funny, and you were doing odd jobs, and we were just trying to make a computer at the time. At the time, you could actually build computers, and the economics were still there to build a computer and actually make money off of a computer. Unlike today, the economics are hardware is a loss leader on everything today. It's just there's no margin.
We were both in college, both working mostly full-time other jobs, and then at night we were trying to make this company work, and
a lot of hours.
It was I don't think we took a payroll for 2 to 3 years out of the company, if that.
I think it was more than that. It was pretty bad.
Definitely a labor of love.
Well, yeah, and one of the things that I quickly learned in the beginning is running it out of your garage is a bad mistake, because every one of your friends comes over and says, "Hey, I got a computer issue. Can you fix it?" And you're sitting there trying to have dinner with the family.
So before we go there, because I took a leave of absence for 2 years to serve a mission.
You did?
And that was a tough decision. I was actually talking about it in church a couple of weeks ago about that decision, because I thought I had things figured out, wanted to go to school full time, get that done. The business was starting to show some signs of life, and then I came home and said, "Hey, I'm leaving for 2 years." And I know you were excited for me to go on a mission, but also very worried about me.
Yeah, get out. You got this. I'm just kidding.
So, I mean, we were partners. We both were putting in a lot of time.
But Dad was also a partner too.
He was, yeah.
Does the general public know what the original name was of the organization?
We've talked about it. So I think we had another podcast episode that the original name was Whitrio, which our last name was Whittacre. And Whit is the first start, the name, which was my dad's nickname, and Trio, meaning
the three of us,
the three Whittacres.
I think Stimulus Technologies is a much better name than Whitrio for representing what you do.
Well, Whitrio we had to have an explanation every time, because it was, and then it became Whit Duo, and then Whit Uno, Whit Uno. But I'm sure that was a tough time. I had a decent amount of tribal knowledge. I was doing a lot of the work, and then I left, and it was a tough little period of time.
Were you gone when I moved it down there onto Water Street?
Yeah, so one of our clients had a new office that I think we built that office out right before I left, and then you moved down there onto Water Street.
Yeah, like I said, I still have a lot of fond memories. The power bill was outrageous because it just leaked air like no tomorrow, but it was great. It gave us a little office front. Gave us
400 square feet, I think.
Yeah, it's 400 or 500 square feet. It's still there today.
It is,
and they occupy and have some offices in it. And
it was more. There was more pigeons in that area than there were people.
Yes, yes. And at night, watching the people go between the particular establishments that were in the area.
There was
Being
bars,
Nevada,
and casinos.
yeah, being in Nevada, there's bars and casinos. Don't think other things, but yeah, there was a lot of people that would walk around late at night, which always kind of made me nervous working there at night. But yeah, it was like I said, I still have fond memories of that. But a lot of hours, a lot of labor, love. It was good though.
But I think in that time, you had a life-changing contract that happened. You want to talk about the contract we got from one of our clients?
Well, let me before we have that,
Mm-hmm.
let's take a half a step back, because I think that honestly, if I look at the sequence of events, the internet started before that.
That's true.
You know,
We moved down there for a specific reason.
For a specific reason at the time. At the time, and we were doing work. So Nathan and I actually had the opportunity. I think you did too. We actually had the opportunity to work on, for those that are older like us, worked on ISDN stuff here in Las Vegas. So we were doing a lot of ISDN work for a lot of call centers and stuff like that. And so we were doing some high-speed traffic stuff, and we were doing a lot of stuff in the Linux kernel at the time. And so we had a client that came to us and said, hey, look, I really want to get hooked up with some broadband at my office. What do you suggest? And so we worked out to become a distributor of broadband. At that time in Las Vegas, we had, because of our knowledge in Linux and what was going on in the routing protocols and everything, we had the ability to start providing T1 lines out to people. Mm-hmm. So we would order a raw T1 line from the phone company, and then we would go in and set it up. And our technical advantage was Cisco makes phenomenal equipment, but they also charge properly for the phenomenal equipment. We were able to go in and using Linux routers, which is pretty much the standard today. So what most people are doing today in the back end is we were able to take and do that all the way back then on some of the cards, and we would compile the kernels and dial it in and everything. So that's why we were down there, and we started supplying internet out to a lot of the offices here in town, and it kind of made it like a pivot. And then at the same time that was going on, we were offered the opportunity to, there's a long story, but we ended up, we were offered an opportunity to write some software for nuclear medicine hospitals and clinicians. It sounds scary. It's really not. I mean, it's a very common stuff that happens. And anyhow, so once Nathan came back, I broke off to take and manage that full time. I stayed as what every active person in a business dislikes, and that's called a silent partner.
Not so silent.
But anyhow, so I was running. We had a lot of business partners in the other operation, and so we ended up growing that to a rather large organization that finally sold off to a publicly traded company in October of 2023. So that one got to go. But meanwhile, Nathan took stimulus and grabbed it by the horns and just figured out how to thread those needles and how to get through every one of the problems. And sometimes you pay for your education in college, or you pay for your education with hard knocks. And I think in Nathan's case, he paid for it both ways. And he's built it up to an amazing company today. I'm still in shock and awe on just what he's done.
Thanks, Brad. So I love the story though, because you got it was a one-page contract from our customer, and it was a sizable contract for our little fledgling company, and you came home, and what did you do? You called up your friend,
right? So I also went on a mission, and one of my really good friends from the mission, from when I went out, his goal when he was out on his mission, he wanted to be an airline pilot, and I won't say for what airline. Well, he came back and he went to ASU, and he got all the way to his final licensing, and it turned out that he was colorblind. So he's
only a distance, and
no, he's colorblind.
But it only made a difference on him getting his commercial or ATP license.
No, it was his commercial.
Yeah.
And when they opened up the book and they said, "What's the number?" He goes, "What number?" And meanwhile, he had spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And anybody that's become a pilot understands when I say how fast you can go backwards money-wise. He had a choice of, what are you going to do? So he actually went into computer engineering, and once again, a magnificent programmer, a great engineer. And so I called him on the phone and I said, "Hey, we got a contract here. You're a better programmer than I am, and would you be willing to take and help out, get through this contract?" at the time he was working for a company called Metasoft. And then he graduated from college. When he did graduate from college, shortly after that, he actually went to work programming on the Boeing, Apache Longbow helicopter. And he ended up, hats off to him. He jumped in and he ended up quitting a very stable job with Boeing, moving up to Las Vegas and helping progress that project forward. So he put a lot of skin in that game also and risked a lot.
But you got this contract. You thought you called him up and said, I think we could write it in how long?
Oh, I don't. and it's funny because all of the employees that I had over the years, they knew what my standard answer was. 2 weeks was my standard answer. We can build that feature in 2 weeks. Never went that fast, but that's my way to push. I figured we could have it done. I figured we could have it done in 2 months initially. It took to get alpha version 1 out well over a year. And it was just, and ultimately, shame on me. Once again, you learn through hard knocks, right? The contract that was written was not a bad contract. It was a one-page contract, but it fundamentally said your software has to do everything. So as we're developing it, everything gets decided as you're going along, in a nutshell.
And this is why we don't do software development anymore at Stimulus.
Well, the problem with software development, really, not the problem, the difficult part, and I think that the software development industry has recognized this and changed. Agile, you'll hear a lot of people talk about Agile. Fundamentally, it's just the concept of delivering as quick as you can small features to the customer, and you prioritize to what's most important to the customer, because they'll hit you with 100 features and only 20 are important. 80 of them mean really nothing to them. They're just asking for it. So you get the 20 to them, and then you evaluate the other 80, and you'd be surprised most of the time the other half of the other 80 just disappear, and then you can focus on another 20. And at the time, it didn't work like that. We were thinking in what's called waterfall development. We're going to deliver some package to you at the end, and wow, that was a lot of work. A long time and a lot of work. It paid off, and it worked out good, but.
Yeah, three years before it was like officially you could sell something, right?
Pretty much 3 years of working on it, and it was a lot of work. And then it was off to the races. Once we had it released, certainly not something as wild as software companies today that everybody knows about, but for a small little niche market that most people haven't ever heard of, we just exploded.
Yeah, it's a testament to optimism and entrepreneurship too. I think that's one of the problems we have. Like your thing, 2 weeks to get it done. We're often optimistic of our capabilities, and to the detriment of our.
But isn't that why you go into computer science or computer engineering? We like to build things, and we're optimists. I think I can build that. I mean, that's really fundamentally what engineers are. They're the ones that are very negative tend to filter out.
QA testing?
Yeah, they do QA testing. That's a good point. They do QA. They go into that and they enjoy that. But most engineers and most software guys are very, very optimistic. And when you start bidding big projects and you start looking at big things, that's the hardest part. Is you really have to sit down and take a deep breath and say, is this reality? Because I know if I did it by myself, this might be this, but I got to have a big, large team. There's a lot of coordination. There's a lot of things there. And sometimes optimism can come back and bite you really hard.
So you eventually grew what became EC2 software.
Correct.
About 50 developers.
We would flow up between 45 to 55. So we would just say 50. It was an international company. We had software running globally, which in itself, for those, if you live here in America, you know how it is, but when you deal with Europe and you deal with things like GDPR and intellectual property rights, personal rights, the right to privacy, it just, especially being in the medical world, it becomes you have to have a team following regulations. It's very, very difficult. And security. You just can't.
Especially with medical data and testing data.
It's really hard. When you start talking HIPAA and people's information, they get really squirrely about that, and the penalties can be pretty stiff.
And you were working with nuclear medicine too, so these are radioactive drugs and pharmacies, and there's every agency in the alphabet of the government wanted their reports of what was going on.
Well, and that's what the software did. It ended up growing to the point where we wrote software for quality management of drug manufacturing, down to pharmaceutical distribution, down to the clinician, and all sorts. A big comprehensive suite of software. But once again, the whole time that I'm doing that, honestly, my passion's things like robotics and electronics and that type of stuff, because I'm a great hacker, but when it comes to good software engineering, Nathan's better at that than I am.
I don't know about that anymore.
Jared is better at it than I am. There are much other people, and Jared was my partner that was in it. There are other people that are much better at it than I am.
It's just crazy to think, though, in 30 years ago, this idea of, hey, we could help our friends and family build computers and make this into a business turned into, an internet company, a managed IT service company, a cybersecurity company here, and then, really an international software development company on the other side when we split off. And, this little inkling of a concept that we had, maybe back to the Atari when we were just tinkering around with that.
I'm going to blame it on our parents and the Atari. I have to give almost 100% credit to our parents.
Yeah.
Our father and our mother were entrepreneurs, and they started a business. My father, when he was in college and when he graduated, was making phenomenal money. He did really, really well. Now, he was a sales associate doing what he did, but he decided to start a business himself in 1976. And he worked that, and then after that business was unsuccessful. So he learned lessons. And, but the whole time, all of us siblings got to see what it was like and the challenges that you go through and the rewards. I think that ultimately the reward is, at the end of the day, people like to look at business people as greedy, and they're trying to take everything. In the small business world, and the small business, it's not about that. It's like, what made me happy was knowing that I had 50 people that I was putting the rice bowl on the table of their family. To me, that was more important than I wanted to be. We obviously have to be profitable as a company. You have to make money to stay in business, or else you're going to go out of business. But the fact that you have the employees that you have, they've been, and that's what I said in the beginning, 15 years. That's awesome that you have a person that it's not a job, it's a career. And when you have a person that sits there and says, this is a career, this is a home, that says something about the organization. That says something about the management. That says something about what's going on. And for the person that's running it at the top, it says that they're genuinely concerned about their employees. And that means something. It really means something, especially in today's day and age, is that it's a good relationship between everybody. Because I think that ultimately, I know at night, we've talked about this. You're concerned about every individual in your organization. Every one of them is
a lot of weight on the owner's shoulders.
It is. Yeah. It is. And I think most owners of small businesses operate like that. It's not a money grab and run. It's what are we doing to better society and our fellow human beings?
Yeah, it goes, to our core values, and our mission as a company is, bringing, the best technology services that we can provide to the communities where we serve, and Absolutely. To provide great jobs and a great environment for the team members that are part of the company. And it's, the company comes to a point that it outgrows the owner. There's so many things that are happening at Stimulus that I'm not involved with every day, and I'm sure it was the same way at EC2. It's, there's, things happen without having, the owner having to touch it, but that doesn't mean that we're not there and don't intimately care about the success.
Absolutely. I mean, that's fundamental, to care about everybody and the success of everything. It's not a money grab. It's what are we doing? So
yeah.
And the thing about the core values, I know a lot of companies will put up core values and sometimes you go, well, I really wonder if they care about that. You can see that in a company, whether they actually believe what is coming down from upper management, whether they believe that. Because if they do believe it, and then the right values and the right stuff, it really creates a very good relationship and a happy place for people to have as a vendor and or a customer, and it really circles around. And so 30 years shows that you're doing something right.
Yeah, we have clients that have been with us nearly that time, that have been 25 years or more with the company, which is, also, and they become friends over time too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, some of these clients invited to a wedding, or, and they know about what's happening with the kids. They've seen the birth and growth of all the kids, and just always a conversation to have with them. So.
Do you remember the first computer we built? Going back 30 years.
To John Marie and Jim Soderquist.
John Marie and Jim Soderquist. That was
who both have passed away since then. But
so we can name them now, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the first computer, and that once again, that was our father out saying, hey, these are friends of mine. they need a computer. Will you take care of them? And we said, yeah, and we did. And I think they bought several of them from us over years.
They did, and
Yeah.
they were home user friends, the family, and they came into our office often, even up until until they passed away. So it's that those type of friendships last, and I don't know every one of our clients anymore personally, which is unfortunate. I'd love to know more, but our team members intimately care about the success of all our clients, and that's the difference, I think, between buying services from a large enterprise that you're just a number on a paper to them, than a small company that really does care about
I think so.
about the clients. So yeah, it's just as we grow, that's the goal that I have, is to still have that intimate relationship with our clients as a company. So it goes back to the beginnings of where we started. So
Take a risk, work hard, treat people fairly. They'll treat you fairly. Success can happen, and a lot of sleepless nights.
and I often think too, my family was involved too, my kids, and one of the things I remember, our dad's business, I would, at 4 or 5 years old, I was in there cleaning toilets.
Absolutely.
As a service master, and you helped scrub floors and whatever, clean up disaster restoration as a teenager. And
yeah, once again, that's the work ethic that was beat into us. I shouldn't say beat into us. It was taught to us, and to this day I appreciate it. It's something that my dad is really, or I should say, our dad is really my hero. He worked hard. Not everything worked out. I mean, working hard does not necessarily guarantee success. There are sometimes external factors that will prevent that from happening.
Economic,
but it certainly is a good step forward on getting to being successful. And he always worked hard. He taught us to work hard. There were many times when I was getting pushed back, and he says, part of this life, one of the main responsibilities I have is to teach you how to work.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, I'm going to teach you how to work. And we learned how to work.
We did.
Every one of us. And I look at all of our siblings, and it's paid off for every one of us. They're all very gifted, very talented at what they do. Every one of us chose a different career. We have 2 sisters, and both of them have been exceedingly successful at what they picked to do, and they work hard. And their kids work hard, and
they do.
My kids work hard, and your kids work hard, and it's a good trait to have. Not be afraid of work and enjoy it.
So the other piece of advice, and maybe we'll kind of end with this, is that Dad gave us, was things always take twice as long and cost twice as much as what you anticipate. And I actually disagree with him. I would probably add multiples of those.
No, he would say 3.
3 times?
He would say 3. He would always, whenever I would do a proposal, he goes, you need to multiply it by 3. And I'm like, well, we won't get the deal. And he goes, but that's what it's going to take. Yeah. And he was always right.
He was. It drove me nuts.
Well, there was one other piece of advice that he gave us in the very, 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 very beginning. And I don't know if he gave it to you, he gave it to me. He said, Brett, if it costs you $1 to build a widget and you sell it for 95 cents, you will never make it up in volume.
Or sell it for, yeah, for sure.
If it costs $1 to make and you sell it for 95 cents, you are not going to make it up in volume.
No. It's, those are tough decisions you make over time as a business, is, what business you're going to be in that makes sense. And it shifts over time. I mean, our company has shifted dramatically over time. The internet's changed.
Well, it has to.
Yeah.
It's IT.
And IT services has changed dramatically. I mean, we were just break fix, building computers, installing networks. Now we're, fully managed services. We have cybersecurity we have to deal with, and AI that we have to help companies with. It's just dramatically changed over the years, but that's what keeps it fun.
That's just it. Every day you get up, it's a new challenge.
Yeah.
Seriously, Stimulus would not be here today if it wasn't for that dynamic shift and the recognition of that shift that you did. Because if it was still a break fix on computers, the economics of it just doesn't, the economics of building computers is just not there. Yeah. They're almost, and I know, it's hard to say this because people, when you spend a lot of money on a computer, you think, well, there's got to be big margins there. The truth is, it's just not. that's okay. There's other things you pivoted. You went to more of a services company. The internet has been expanded from a router that was screwed to a wall to multiple data centers in multiple states with fiber optic and
Complex,
SEC and very complex, very, very complex routing and networking, and it's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah. And it's fun. I mean, we're in the middle of a new pivot, the company with these grant programs we're part of, and it's just this week I was up reviewing our project up in Oregon that we're doing for fiber build, and it's just interesting the constant pivot, and that's what's fun about business. It is always a new challenge, always new things, and I think it takes that hard work and that dedication and that optimism, because a lot of people look and say, I can't be successful in that. I don't want to take that risk, and maybe because of the optimistic nature that I have and that was ingrained in us, we're willing to take a little bit more risk than we maybe should at times.
Well, I think they're calculated risks now. In other words, obviously we don't know what we don't know, but what we do know, we can mitigate that risk. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the key that we learned over time. And unfortunately, I think we learned it through some hard knocks and a lot of hard work and sleepless nights. But that's okay. If there's somebody out there that's 18 years old that's watching this and he's thinking, hey, I want to do something with my life and I want to do, I'm willing to take a risk or whatever, go for it. But get the education that you need, because if you don't know how to do accounting or you don't understand financials and you're going to start a business, you might want to go take a class or two.
Yeah, that and also having a good team of partners around.
Absolutely.
That's what's great about mom and dad, especially. Mom was great on the sales and marketing side and really pushed us on that, and dad was great on the business operations. And
I think we're the only two computer guys that I know that are not introverts.
I think I'm an introvert. You're not. You're more of an extrovert.
I am definitely an extrovert, and I've had multiple people over my career say, "You're not normal. You're willing to speak. You're willing to do lectures. You're willing to get in front of people. You'll do all of this stuff, and you don't ever squawk about it." And I'll go out on a limb. I was always the guy that would be willing to put his foot in his mouth and say, "I probably shouldn't have said that," but that's an extrovert.
Yeah.
And being a computer guy that's an extrovert is very, very unique, and I think you are too.
I'm a closet extrovert.
You're a closet extrovert.
I'd rather sit behind the camera and talk to people than actually go shake their hands at a network.
But if you've ever had an opportunity to listen to Nathan lecture, do it. He is a phenomenal speaker, does a great job. He's very focused. He's very, very good at it. And he doesn't give himself enough credit. He's an extrovert.
It takes a lot of energy to be out there, but I do enjoy it. It's interesting. But well, Brett, I appreciate you coming in. Brett's semi-retired now, but I think he's busier today than he was before. He retired from his business, but now tools around on airplanes, and
it's a lot of fun. It's just a hobby. It's fun to do on the side. It's relaxing. The aviation world, like the computer world, there's a lot of legal things that have just changed in general aviation. At Oshkosh, the new regulations came out, and it is amazing. You're going to see a transformation where,
new technologies, new abilities.
You will start to see a lot of these 60-year-old Cessnas.
Well, again, thank you so much for coming in, and thanks for listening today. I know the last couple of episodes have been reminiscing a bit about Stimulus Technologies, but hopefully you learned a little bit about where we started from and where we're going and the vision of the company of what it takes to run a business. It's definitely been a journey over 30 years, and it couldn't have done it alone. From everywhere from family to friends to our team members to our clients to people that listen to us. That's what makes it possible. So thank you for joining us, and join us next time.